Like the desert, as we heard on the first Sunday of Lent, and the mountain we heard last Sunday, the temple is a place of special encounter with God. But today, we do not see the glorious face of Jesus. We see his angry face. Jesus is not happy with what he sees, precisely because the way the temple worship has been organized no longer reflects God's original idea of a worshiping community. Some people have a hard time with our gospel reading today. They have difficulty reconciling the Jesus who drove the money changers from the temple with the Jesus who said, "Turn the other cheek, love your enemies." Jesus is God and holy and without sin. How could he get so angry? Some knowledge of the design of the temple will help us here. The temple had 5 sections, or called courts. The first one, Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant is. Second is the court of priests. Third, the court of Israel. Fourth, the court of women. And the fifth, the court of Gentiles. The design made room for everybody in the house of God. It was a universal house of God for all the nations, where every man and woman on earth would find a place in which to pray. Unfortunately, the Jewish leaders forgot that and thought that it was meant only for them. And so they decided to turn the court of the Gentiles into a holy marketplace for selling the animals required for sacrifice and for exchanging money. You could bring Roman money as far as the court of the Gentiles, but not into the other 4 courts. The court of the Gentiles was no longer regarded as part and parcel of the house of God, and so it had become a marketplace, pure and simple. And so now it was the court of the Gentiles that Jesus cleansed. And in so doing, he was making the point that the Gentile section was just as holy as the Jewish sections. God is the God of all and not just God of a select group. Like the Jews of the time of Jesus, sadly, some Christians today still think that God belongs to them alone and not to others as well. Jesus was mad with the religious establishment of his day because the religious leaders had put religiosity over morality. They had put particularity over universality. They have put exclusiveness over inclusiveness. And so our text today brings us face to face with the truth that there is such a thing as a healthy anger. There is no disputing the fact that Jesus was angry when he cleansed the temple. And so what we need to understand is that anger itself is neither good nor bad, neither moral nor immoral. Its moral quality depends on the reason behind it, meaning what drove the person to be angry and the way it is expressed. It is possible to be thoroughly angry and thoroughly Christian at the same time. In fact, there are times and circumstances in which it would actually be inappropriate, utterly inappropriate, and even unchristian not to be angry. See, anger itself is not a sin. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let your anger turn into resentment and bitterness. Do not let the negative thinking take over. Change the negative into positive. Think of anger as a red flag God is waving to get your attention. So pray for the people and the situations that make you angry. In the words of the prayer of serenity, accept the things you cannot change the things you can, pray for the wisdom to know the difference. And so what is the difference between right anger and wrong anger? The critical factor is self-interest. Do not be angry just because your ego was hurt. The most evident about the anger of Jesus is that it was never motivated by self-interest. He got deeply angry at the mistreatment of other people, the abuse of other people. Because there were merchants in the temple selling sacrificial birds and animals, but the purchases had to be made with temple money. So the people had to exchange their money for temple money. And so this was the business of the money changers. And the rate of exchange was almost always to the advantage of the money changers, a religious rip-off, so to speak. People were coming to the temple with broken hearts and lives. They came seeking understanding, comfort, forgiveness. And at such times, people can be highly vulnerable. Unfortunately, the temple merchants knew that, and they took advantage of the situation to make unfair profits for themselves. And so when Jesus saw what was happening, he got angry. It was then that he made a whip of ropes and drove the animals and merchants from the temple. Jesus got angry at man's inhumanity to man. Today, we also hear about bullying, dictators enslaving his subjects, the abuse of the human rights of people. When people take unfair advantage of other people, it is time for Christian people to get mad. And that presupposes that we care about people. Jesus' anger was an emotional reaction to the abuse of people whom he loved. Just think of this. Let someone mistreat a member of your family, a scam artist cheating elder parents out of their life savings, a pusher getting your son or daughter hooked on drugs, people disrespecting your family. So how would you react to that kind of thing? Your anger would be because of your love for the people who had been hurt or being abused. And that is what Jesus experienced. He loved those people who were being ripped off in the name of religion. And he simply could not stand by and watch it happen. If you and I are not angry about some of the injustices occurring in our world today, that probably says more about our lack of love than anything else. The gospel calls us to develop or grow in our spiritual muscle, so to speak, and build a character that will enable us to forget about ourselves and care about others. Someone has said, you can measure a person by the size of the things that make him or her mad. Again, you can measure a person by the size of the things that make him or her mad. And so let us hope and pray that in our life, in your life and mine, those things that make us mad, not petty things, but those things that make us mad are big things, unselfish things, and let us hope and pray to learn to make a healthy use of our capacity for anger. But please always remember, keep this in mind, it is okay to be angry, but do not sin in your anger. God bless.